I love watching those marble race videos on TikTok and YouTube, but I always wondered where were these people getting these race setups, specifically for the wooden ones. I've seen the plastic ones all over places like Target and different toy stores, but I could never find those wooden ones that seem to do the best because the super satisfying sounds when the marble is hitting the wood. The more I looked into it, it seemed like a lot of the toys that they were using were either handmade or they just weren't around anymore. A lot of these toys have been discontinued. So, as somebody who loves to make and sell things made out of wood, I decided this could be a fun adventure. I'm sure with all the millions of views these videos get, there's probably someone out there who also would like to have some. I do have some experience with CNC machining, so I thought these would be pretty simple projects to start. I wanted to start just making some simple marble boards, and luckily, even though at the time I didn't have my own CNC, I was working out of a co working space that had a CNC, so I got to experiment around with a couple designs. I started making some really basic, just flat marble tracks on the CNC, and these were pretty simple once I got the hang of it. And they were really fun. So the next step was trying to sell them. So for some context, we also make wooden makeup brushes, and we had our makeup brushes on Etsy for over a year without any sales. I figured that it was just an issue with Etsy. I had been seeing how many manufactured products from like China were on the site, and I just figured maybe Etsy was dead or whatever, but I still decided to put my marble toys onto Etsy, and I literally got a sale the next day. So this is when I started to think, maybe we're onto something with these marble toys, and I wanted to create more. But it got to a point where the Etsy sales were coming in and we couldn't always have access to that CNC machine. A lot of times it was down, or as I said, it's a co-working space, so somebody else could be using it for long hours. So we had to put our plans of the marble toys on hold for now. One of my big goals for 2025 was to buy my own CNC because I just couldn't keep going with the one we were using as far as for business. I think not having reliable access to it was really a problem when it came to fulfilling orders and not being late on shipments. And then one day when I was just scrolling Facebook Marketplace, I saw that a local architecture firm was selling a CNC machine for a reasonable price. This is the X-Carve Pro, and they were selling it for about half off, and they even lowered it another 500 if I was able to pick it up right away. We were looking into getting a moving company or like renting a U-Haul, but they really wanted us to move out with it as fast as we could to get that lowered price. So I just got some of my uncles and my dad and my brother, and we moved it into the car of the biggest truck that we had between the all of us, and we were able to transport it to our co-working space. I'll say we did have some issues getting the CNC set up because the electronics didn't really match what we had, and it kept on blowing the fuse whenever we tried to turn it on once we were getting set up. But once we got past that and removed a couple of things and just got everything set up, there was a lot of support from X-Carve's website. It seemed to be going pretty good. The first thing that really stood out to me compared to the other CNC I was using is how easy this spoil board, or I'm not sure what you call it, but how it has the screws in there so I can directly add the clamps is. Before I was having to nail down my pieces, and it was so annoying because then the corner pieces went to waste. When I'm making things like these marble boards, I'm able to just clamp them down after they've been cut directly to size, and it makes it so much easier since we like to buy the wood pre-cut. So here's here's some clips of my initial first cuts, as you guys can see here. First I used, you can see that little squiggle, a 1/4 inch bit, just because that's what this machine came with. And this was the scary part for me, was trying the 3/4 inch bit. I wasn't sure if a small machine was gonna have the power to run this, but as you guys can see, it's doing really awesome. One thing I did notice about the previous cut was that I felt like it didn't have enough clamps. I kind of felt like it could potentially move. So here I am just opening up a package I ordered of a bunch of new clamps. I'm not really sure how these little low profile ones work. That's one thing, is I really want to make sure it's low profile since we will be going to the edge of the wood. And yeah, I just want to make sure we're securing it a little bit better. Okay, looking back, this is where I should have realized that I was having a problem. As you guys can see, I was having a lot of issues unscrewing this little screw. I don't know what that's called. But it just wasn't coming out, and looking back, I thought that maybe it was an issue of the screwdriver, but it actually didn't fit. This screw is in standard units, and I believe this actually takes metric, I think it's M5 screws. So I had to learn that the hard way, as you guys will see, and it didn't properly secure. So here I go, making my first cuts, and as you guys can see, for this initial really shallow pass, it was doing okay. But right when we started on the second deeper pass, it started lifting, and yeah, I had to stop the cut and stop recording. As you guys can see, it came out all messed up on the bottom. Initially, I thought it was an issue of either these 3D printed holders not being strong enough, but as you guys can see, once I changed out the screws and added some washers to hold it down better, it's gonna cut a lot better.